Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Big Time Strength Podcast. I'm your host, Gage Rosier, as along with my other co-host here for a crew chat. We got the crew together today for another crew chat, like I just said. I guess I'm repeating myself this morning. It is, I guess, 6 a.m., which isn't that early in the strength coach world, but we'll get it rolling this morning. We have kind of an equipment-themed podcast to get us kind of rolling here for a new start of the year. I know everybody's super busy. It's kind of that early August. Everybody's kind of getting into, if you haven't started school yet, or fall camp, or if you're working with football, I know you're super busy. It's an exciting time of year. I'm glad everybody could find some time to get on this crew chat today. Before we get into our conversations, as always, I want to talk about our sponsors, TeamBuildr. They are the leading software for high schools and colleges by providing coaches the ability to write programs online, write reports, and train athletes even remotely. And they're also getting into the private sector space, which is kind of my world now. And they've been huge for me as I'm kind of operating my facility, gym, whatever you want to call it, essentially part-time. This allows me to actually program workouts for our clients, our members, our athletes full-time, where they can see the remote programming as well. It's been awesome. Check out them. And Hugh, it's our show contact here. His information's in the show notes. You can reach out to them and they will hook you up with anything you need in the software world. And if you sign up with code BigTime on their website, you can receive a free APRE programming template. Check out them. They're awesome. Huge sponsors of the show. We really appreciate them. Our next sponsor is Powerlift. They are the leading manufacturer and distributor of heavy-duty strength training equipment for the collegiate and high school world. They bring over 20 years of experience to the strength conditioning sector. All products are manufactured in their state-of-the-art facility up in Jefferson, Iowa. They are so proud to support all the coaches making the big time where they are at. Mike Richardson is the contact for us. His information is the show notes as well. Please reach out to him. He will hook you up, get you quotes with whatever you need. And I don't know, maybe people would be ordered a bunch of stuff after our equipment episode here today. So I guess we'll see what happens. All right, let's get into today's show, kind of go around the horn. Since I'm talking, I'll just go ahead and start on kind of what's happening right now. This is my first fall not being in fall camp right now, which is kind of a transition for me, honestly. It's interesting. I miss a little bit of it. But in the last 7 years, obviously you get in the college world, it's fall camp right now. It's kind of going through that section of the day or section of the year. I'm sure Miles is probably getting ready to get into, or if he isn't already, which we'll talk about. So I'm not in that right now, but still very busy getting our athletes and adults in our training going. It's been really fun, really exciting. And on my other basically full-time job, we're prepping for harvest, which is super busy, and we're trying to get a distillery going. So my life is crazy right now, but it's a lot of fun. Definitely different than what this time of the year normally looks like for me, but we're having fun and kids are growing up too soon. Macklin's getting ready to go to preschool here in a week. So he's got a Spider-Man backpack he got yesterday and some new shoes. So he's all ready to go. All right, let's move around the horn. Preston, what are you up to, man?
We're a couple of weeks into our football season. Also, next week we have scrimmage week, and the week after we're right into week one. So it feels like, I don't know, first of all, it feels like summer flew by. I'm sure it feels like that every year for every single coach, but just flying by, going right into another school year. And it's really cool to be on an athletic or academic calendar, just because you get to see so many new people each year, get to know like new freshmen as they come in and what that looks like. And we just got rolling with football and volleyball, lifting again after fall camp week last week, moving into this week. And we have some more lifting and stuff today with our newer groups and what that looks like. And so that's a lot of fun. So I like the newness. I'm sad to see summer go, but it's still fun to get rolling with the new year.
All right, I'll go next. I am on what I call calm week. It's the week right before fall starts for me. So I really am diligent this week to try and do what I want week. and do like wake up without an alarm clock as best as possible. Today's kind of an exception, but and then go to bed, eat what I want, kind of work out how I want, and just really try and get my energy for next week. And I've been doing this since last Wednesday. So it's just been a good week. Try not to take any vacations and no ball. We're just finishing up a summer of, I have 3 kids, 3 different ball teams. So it was an intense summer, but just like I'm guessing everyone's summer is. And I'm excited. I like this week to that when Monday comes around and fall sports start with us, we'll be ready to go. So I'm excited to get a few ideas this week because I'm ordering equipment and I think this will be a good episode.
Yeah, and like Gage said, we are actually just getting started fall camp today. So today is practice number 1 for football. So as soon as we get off this call, I'll have to go out and prep the guys and kind of teach all the freshmen what we're doing on that side of things for the start of fall camp. We had our first team meeting last night, so got to talk through some expectations and stuff with our football guys. And yeah, it's really exciting to get to do this because obviously last year it was, I think, the day before fall camp that we got word that the fall championships were going to be suspended and we were moving guys into campus that day. So kind of had the rug pulled out from under us at this time last year. So it's a good feeling to actually get to roll into practice and actually see some of the guys' faces. I realized I'm going to be learning 2 classes worth of faces this year because I didn't see hardly any of our freshmen without a mask on last year. And some of them do not look like what I thought they looked like. So I told the guys at the meeting last night, if they see me staring at them, to just put their hand over half their face so I can identify them real quick before we get going. But yeah, for the next couple of weeks here, it's just going to be kind of a steady stream of athletes getting to campus. And then first week of September, everybody returns and we start classes and we're going full bore by then. So excited.
Awesome. Exciting time for everybody. I'm glad Amanda on her do whatever she wants to do week, she's on a podcast with us. So that's great. At 6 a.m. True trooper here. All right, let's get into our questions. I want to start because I think everybody else kind of got equipment questions, but I have a little bit different one. So we're on the theme of also, school starting. So we work all year round, but it just it's start of a new school year. So I think it's a time where a lot of coaches are maybe putting in maybe some new projects, some new initiatives that they're trying to do within their department. I don't remember what the saying is exactly, but like, do you have 10 years of experience coaching, or do you have 1 year of experience that you've done 10 straight times? And I think probably everybody here on this call is always trying to get better, not trying to do the same thing year after year. Of course, there's things that transfer over. But what I want to know out of you guys is, what are some things that maybe you are initiating or starting from a project standpoint, just more overall department standpoint going into this year? Whoever wants to attack that first, go for it.
I'll go on this one. I am going to dive deep into velocity-based training. I'm an absolute beginner at it. So we got our first devices and I'm cluttered, I'm having a hard time actually getting started, harder than I thought. So I'm planning on reaching out this week. And just what's great about this is I know I have a handful of people at my arsenal that I can call and will help me with it right away. But yeah, we're diving into velocity-based training. If you've ever heard, my mission is for students to move well, then move strong, and then move fast. So I'm really trying to be diligent with that and making these levels for athletes. And I'm really hoping with the velocity-based training, and we use VMAX Pros, that they can see the bar path. I'm really hoping to bring in a lot more of our females to like lifting. I still struggle with that. They'll come in for sports teams and we'll get a handful that want to be there, but just making it a culture is still something to this day that we're trying. So that was kind of my goal with it related to female sports. And then I'm really bringing in Mat 9 stuff and working really hard to start putting each sport team to a grade. So accountability, being accountable by their peers, and turning that into a system. So if anybody's got something at the high school level that they love to do, I would love to hear from you. But I'm thinking of I'm putting each sport team on a board, and we're going to go through each week. I'm going to try to keep data related to effort, related to passion, and see where we can go with that. So bringing in those two things, and then hopefully that will buy in a little bit more team atmosphere where the teams compete against each other. Because right now we have some teams that are all in and some teams that we're still struggling, that it's just something they have to do.
That's awesome, Amanda. And I think those are a couple really cool things. And I will say on the velocity-based stuff, this was my experience because I was the same thing this time last year, just kind of had our stuff and was going to experiment with it. In my opinion, with my experience, don't get too carried away with like the zones and all that out of the gate. You know what I mean? Like the strength speed or the speed strength zones on needs to be this speed to do this strength trait. That's how a lot of people use it. I want to be concerned with that when you communicate that with the athletes. All I told the athletes, I tried that for like a week or two, and it was confusing for them. It's too much. And I ended up saying, hey, all I want you to do is just compete with yourself. Just use it purely for intent. Move that weight as fast as you can. Compete with yourself. Get that bar moving. In my mind, I, as a coach, am thinking, okay, I know the zones. I'm just learning myself here. But I tried to program the zones right out of the gate, and there was just too big of a learning curve for the athletes. So I just dumbed it down like, all right, you guys don't worry about any of that. Let me process that in my mind separately. You guys just move that weight as fast as you can. And that way it just keeps it simple. That way they can just focus on their intent. And then that gives you time to figure out, okay, are these zones hitting like they're supposed to, or however you're going to use it. Just keep it simple for the athlete of saying, okay, this is really cool. It tracks your bar speed. Your only goal is to move the bar faster every rep. That's all you have to do. And make sure you hit the button before you start.
Love it. Good.
Yeah, I'd echo. Sorry, Amanda. I'd echo the same thing. We used we've got rep 1 units that we utilized pretty heavily in the spring, and it was that exact same thing. You know, I can watch their speed and, you know, adjust loads as we need to. But for them, I just told them, like Gage said, compete. Like it's just another tool, right, for them to actually drive intent without having to add more weight to the bar, which, like you said, I think will be really good for some of your female athletes, because that can be a little bit of a hurdle that you run into. In my experience, sometimes they don't like the thought of adding more weight to the bar. But if they have the same weight on the bar, they can have an actual number to say, hey, you're moving it faster. Hey, you've got a number that you can actually compete against. So they can make progress that way, not necessarily just adding weight to the bar.
Good. That helps. Preston, I've seen you use push bands, right?
Yeah, we use push bands. I'd say, you know, like I'll echo both of what these guys said, but for the most part, our kids love to be able to compete. We use it just another way for us to compete. I started to steal from Mark Hoover with his APRE zones. So APRE chart that he has with the different zones. If you reach out to him, which obviously he puts out a ton of content on it. If you reach out to him, he's got some really good things that way. But I think just velocity-based training and just in general, I believe is the future of strength and conditioning. There's no way for us to go backwards as far as like, oh no, I don't want more information that's going to help guide decisions. That doesn't help me. You know, like it's always going to start moving forward to how can I make better decisions? And when we can show kids how to make better decisions with the loads that they're putting on the bars, that gets us closer to the performance goals that we want. So I think any coach that says, man, I'm going to start diving into velocity-based training, I think they're on the right track. Not to say other people are wrong, but I do think that eventually they'll see like, oh yeah, for the qualities that I want to make, then I need to be able to have more information, and our kids need to have more information.
How about Preston? What are you doing this year as far as new projects? Or you're always working on something. So what are you doing?
So Coach Berg said something about how she wanted to track and grade different sport teams. And Gage, I know you've done this in the past, and then I've seen this a few times on social media, and I just keep on thinking about it a lot more. But I was just while we were talking here, I was writing stuff down just to make sure that I added it up right. But we've got about 46 weeks that we train on, where it's at least 3 times a week that we're training. Okay. So 46 weeks out of the 52 in a year. And then I'll send home at home workouts that they can do at their leisure, like whenever they want to on the 6 weeks that we don't meet. But I wouldn't track those. My plan is taking the 46 weeks and saying, okay, that is 138 opportunities in a school year or an academic calendar year. Right. And then over the course of your high school career, that'd be 552 times that you could train at least 3 times a week. Okay. My thought process would be, how consistent can we be? And how many people can I get to hit the 500 mark? That's what I want. So like if you'd hit 3 times a week for the 46 weeks for 4 years, it'd be 552. How many of my athletes can I get to hit 500? Now, my biggest problem with this is how the heck am I going to track all of it? So that's where I'm diving in right now, is how do I track these people for 4 years? Because right now I've got attendance for school, I've got attendance for summer stuff, but I don't have something where I can just continue on with attendance for, it's not like I have a ton of athletes, but for 250 to 275 athletes a year for 4 years. So if you guys know of different products or different way other coaches do that, that's what I'm starting to research right now. Because if I would just say that I've got 500 opportunities to help my student athletes, I think kids would see the outcomes that they want. But we could also just get to the point where we know the culture is strong and we know the opportunities that we have for our kids are there, and that consistency that everybody says on social media is like, that is the number one KPI, is like consistency. And I want to track that somehow. So figure that out.
You said to get to the 500 mark, Preston, and it reminded me of a post I saw from one of our BTS former alumni. Is that redundant? Rosier. Did you see that post he made about their summer club? So he said, I just pulled it up. Said it was their 16th annual Beast Feast. And they do like year one, they had 15 perfect students 16 years ago. So they had in a high of 144 kids. They said this year they had 750 kids from 2nd through 12th grade. And they had almost 500 hit perfect attendance all summer. Pretty cool.
That's awesome.
I don't know why I thought of that, but I think I'd maybe give a little shout out to Coach Schwezo at Basin Linwood High School and Coach Weezer. There too. So sorry, side note, are you done there, Preston?
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So Ross is one of the guys, Ross is one of the reasons why I want to be a high school strength and conditioning coach. So if you don't know Ross Sweezo, people should reach out and try to figure out who he is, because he's unreal.
Love the idea of a beast feast and calling it that.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah, we feed the Stampede because we're Mustangs, but they're Bobcats, so they feed the beasts.
Love it. That's what I've been looking for. We had for something to do for our 100% crew this summer. That's what I'm doing on week 1. Attendance wise, I saw Gage wrote in TeamBuildr. That's my new attendance. I love using the attendance feature in TeamBuildr. It like instantly has the percentages, and you can calculate it over time. So you could keep track of it for years. Before that, and up to last year, I used a Google Sheet every single year. And then I put in every single lifting opportunity day. So we lift Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And then we counted it if an athlete had, I'm lucky because I teach the strength and conditioning classes like you do. So if an athlete had a strength and conditioning class, they got their point for the day, and then they could get up to 3 per week. If they get 60 in a year, that would be a varsity letter. And out of our 500 kids, we usually get about 30 to 35 that earn a varsity letter. And then each sheet we can calculate over each year. So then when a student graduates, then I calculate how many they did for the year, or not for the year, for their lifetime. And I'm lucky I've been here for a lot of years. So I've been keeping track since 2011. We have all their attendance.
That's awesome. And I think I'm just unsure. I think TeamBuildr is probably the best way to go with this, but I'm just unsure if I wanted to be attached to a Google spreadsheet or an Excel file that much for that much attendance each day. But I just had to make the commitment to it. So I think it's good.
And we just have it up and the kids do it. Or, at the time I'll categorize whatever activity they are. And then I'll just quickly hit if basketball is coming in, boys basketball, I can put that at the top, which
Gotcha.
is nice, with the spreadsheet. But the kids get it down. If a coach is in the room, I make that their primary job. Hey, check their attendance, make sure that they're all here. But once I'd say the downfall is if a kid falls off, or maybe they're not in a class anymore and they maybe come in a couple other times, it might not get counted. But in general, if they're keeping track and they're competing with that number for a varsity letter, then they'll make sure that it gets done.
Yeah, that's good.
Cool. Well, I guess kind of what we've got going on here at Luther, the biggest thing right now for me, Division III school. In the past, we've had anywhere between about 400 and 500 student athletes, but our roster sizes are growing significantly right now. I think our men's soccer roster is pushing like 60 kids right now, which is kind of insane. So we're pushing up closer to probably 600 plus athletes now. And, it's still just 2 of us staff members. So, and limited time during the day to train. So a big push that I've been making and that I want to kind of continue to do through this year is kind of advancing our internship program, trying to get more eyes on our athletes, because we're going to be running, 40 to 50 kids in a group, and probably a couple groups at a time, a lot of times. So we may be training 100 plus athletes in here, and just making sure that we can get more eyes that I trust on some of these athletes, I think is a really big deal, just for their overall experience and the progress that they're going to make with us. So we've got a strength and conditioning degree program now. It's kind of an emphasis within our exercise science program. And so we're getting a lot of interns kind of fed to us from that program at the moment. And so I'm trying to kind of tier out our internship program a little bit, where we've kind of got a base level intro program where they're just observing, doing some educational curriculum, stuff like that. But then interns that I've had for multiple years, I'm going to try to start giving those guys some more responsibility, leading some warm-ups, actually coaching some athletes up a little bit when they're in the room with us, and just trying to, like I said, get more, eyes that I trust actually coaching athletes all the time. And that's, at a Division III school, we're already pretty fortunate to have 2 full-time staff members. So I don't think it's realistic to think that, we're probably getting a lot more than that, at least in the near future. So I think the internship program for us is a really good way to, like I said, just have more bodies on the floor coaching with these athletes, and give them a little more kind of one-on-one coaching exposure. So we're working on that at the moment. And then I'm going to try to make a bigger push on our recovery and nutrition education. I think we do a pretty good job here of our athletes training at a high level, but I think we do a really horrible job of recovering on a very high level. And I've seen that with just a few of our athletes who have trained really well for me over the course of the last 3 years. But in like the last 6 months have really committed themselves on the nutrition side, and have made some like just incredible progress over the course of 6 months, leaps and bounds from what they had done in the previous like 2.5 years combined. so that's great for me to be able to point to some of those guys and use them as an example with our other athletes. But, just the logistics of a small campus, class schedules don't allow for optimum meal times, and getting to the calf can be a struggle for some of these kids. So they're just not eating and fueling their recovery like they should. So finding more ways to just give them some tools to make that process a little bit easier. And, longer term, hopefully maybe finding some ways to get some nutrition resources for them actually in our athletic building. I'm still kind of racking my brain on how to make that work exactly, but just trying to give them as many tools as possible to actually fuel the recovery battle a little bit. So
That's awesome. You guys have that strength conditioning emphasis to kind of feed you. That's awesome. That'll be huge for you as you develop that. And making an intern program is it's not a small task. So good luck. Keep building.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I'm learning that really quickly because the last, I've only been in this role for 9-10 months now. And so last year was a lot of trial and error, and it was a weird year with COVID. So I think I'm kind of getting on the right track with some of that stuff, but the internship program itself, I'm not having to even go out and recruit. We just keep having more kids thrown into it. So we're probably going to be close to 15 to 20 kids this upcoming year. And, that's up from probably 6 to 7 when I got here, 2.5, 3 years ago. So it's growing pretty fast. So I need to get my act together pretty quick with it.
That's awesome. All right, moving on. Let's go to our equipment questions. So we got 3 different ones. Whoever wants to start, why don't you, Preston, why don't you pose your question there, and we'll roll from there.
All right. So what equipment do you have at every rack? And then if we have time for it, at the end, we might come back to what is your next purchase. Okay. So what equipment do you make sure that you have at every rack or rack station?
I can start with this one. I've seen yours, Preston, so I know, like, it's been in my brain. I need to tell him to send me a picture because you've got some good stuff up there, some homemade stuff. But mine is pretty too simple, I think. Obviously, you got the bumpers, but we keep a light bar at every rack and a normal bar, bunch of bars at every rack, and then weights. We talk about equipment. I have some gopher hooks that I purchased years ago that I thought would be like the staple, and the magnets just absolutely do not work. So frustrated with gopher for that purpose if you've had those magnets. So, but I used to try to have bands at every rack. I can't keep them there. They end up getting taken, so I need to get the long ones. And then one of my biggest staples that I got from Coach Ryan Johnson is magnet clips. I mean, I know it sounds simple, doesn't cost a lot of money, but so on those magnet clips, then I'll hang all of our progression sheets. I'll hang just like one of those plastic pouches, and then any workout that I want to put in there. So for instance, a circuit, if the volleyball team's coming in, I just want a special circuit for them, I'll pop that in there for the day. My rubric is in there, like Mark Hoover's participation rubric. I'll flip that over, and so I can just put anything I want in there. Super simple, super cheap. Have about 4 at each rack now, and I use the heck out of them. Probably my biggest tool is those simple magnet clips at each rack. And then obviously we have our iPad and tablet holders, and those turn into a tool. We use them for everything. Video, TeamBuildr, I mean, they're kind of a staple. So simple stuff, and it's a lot more expensive, getting a lot more tech in there, but definitely simple stuff. So I'm looking really to get into the bands and get a good hook system and a stability ball system on the top of our racks, because we have a lot of room. So I might be asking you, send me a pic of what your rack looks like, Preston.
I can do that sometime. Gage, you have a new facility. Well, you're working in one building, but eventually a new facility. So you've been planning on this stuff too. So what are you thinking for your station?
It's going to be pretty simple. It'll be pretty bare bones, honestly. It'll be more of kind of not necessarily a full-on rig setup like you would think like in a CrossFit gym, a little bit more advanced than that, but it'll be pretty simple, just bands, the barbells, obviously. My racks will be connected across with a bridge, so you can hang straps, pull-up bars, stuff like that in between them. Put your stability balls above them, stuff like that. So nothing too crazy from an equipment standpoint, but something we did, and I will do, I don't have them up yet in my new space, but I put RPE charts. I was talking about a bunch of stuff they put on their racks. I put a colored RPE chart on all of our racks, and that was really big when we went to more of an RPE style training. It's color coded, so if you wanted to be at an 8 or a 9, and that's in yellow or orange or whatever the colors are, I don't have it in front of me. We could easily tell athletes, hey, you're not an orange yet. That was more of a blue, which was like a 5 out of 10. So just a simple thing like that. Again, nothing super fancy. But it was very helpful, extremely helpful. I liked it a lot. But then kind of your other question was the next purchase. I actually just purchased something yesterday that I'm really excited to try out, and it's a toe strap. So I'm going to use these for our like drags and stuff like that, sled drags. And it's just from like a carrier company, and it's like half the cost of the company that sells toe straps specific for strength conditioning. It's just a toe strap. We have these all over the farm. It's the same thing. And I just bought one for 60% of the price, 50% of the price that you can get off the common equipment website. So now maybe when I get in, I try it, it sucks. I don't know, but I don't think it will. But so I'm excited to try that out, is a toe strap. So that's your big takeaway from today's podcast.
Love it. God, I wish you would have reached out to me. My husband's a diesel mechanic, so I get those things. Like, I have so many toe straps in my weight room. Yeah, same thing. Just so many outlets that you can get stuff like that.
I don't know what my problem is, but for whatever reason, like wrist straps, it refers to a body part. When you said toe strap, I thought TOE. Like, what are you doing, man?
Really into big like barefoot training. Like Pat Mahomes got a turf toe injury last year, so I've been diving into turf toe stuff like that. How can we help Pat Mahomes out? Because I'm a big Chiefs fan. So toe straps on every rack, 6 straps. Yep.
How about you, Miles?
Yeah, so for us, we've actually got kind of a unique setup. We've got our platforms with our big power lift racks, and then we've got some smaller multi-racks that we keep set up for like our bench press days and stuff. So I'm going to kind of bounce between the two of them. But if I just had it all kind of stuck in one spot, this is kind of what I would have on each bar, and that would be, or on each rack, excuse me. That would be, obviously bumper plates, weight plates, change plates, all that, barbell. Then we've got trap bars at every rack, which is huge. We use the trap bar a ton. We just got football bars. I actually bought those in May, I think. So I haven't really had a chance to use them with our athletes yet because everybody's been gone for the summer. But some neutral grip press bars. I'm excited to use those a little bit. We have rings set up on every rack so we can do, posterior shoulder, pull work, all that good stuff. And then we've got magnetic clips as well on each rack, which is just great for us trying to save our kids' training folders instead of them throwing them on the ground and getting stomped on. Just something that they can actually clip their workout for the day up on the rack and kind of keep it off the ground a little bit. But yeah, that's, it's relatively bare bones. Like I said, I'm excited that we got the neutral grip press bars in there a little bit. That'll be fun, but there's kind of, endless possibilities with just that base level of equipment. So, and then, as far as, stuff that we want to purchase next, we've got some rep 1 units. We got some chains. We don't have enough for every rack yet. But that would kind of be the next next purchase, I think, is getting enough of that stuff to have it on each rack so we can utilize it with everybody.
I like it. I forget about the rings. Yeah, there's probably so many things that we just take for granted that they're just there. That's good. And chains, and then I've been trying to do too the Michael Boyle. I have a fire hose, getting that cut up so you can put it around their shoulders on each rack. I like that. Cheaper things. I mean, there's going to be a lot of that in the wave of the future too. The more tech we get, I think sometimes the more diverse equipment that we can get, and a little bit simpler even. I like that. Well, that might move into my question. Next big purchase, and would probably be, I'm thinking about safety bars. I've been waiting on them for years. Are they a fad? Are they going to go away? I have 12 racks. Do I purchase 12 of them and, taking up space? So my question for you is safety squat bars. I'm thinking of taking out the back squat. I think safety bars, safety bar squat would be a good transition into it, where they still feel like they're getting that, and we can take it out. So what are your thoughts on safety bars? Should I get 12 of them? Should I make the big dive?
I'd say yeah. Sorry, Miles, I jumped in there.
No, go for it, Preston.
Okay, so even before I took back squat out of our program, we had safety bars for every rack. And the reason for that is because we would transition from a front squat to a safety squat bar to a back squat. So it was just one more phase before we got to the actual back squat. So when you feel a safety squat bar on your back, it is not truly loaded the same way. It does not feel the same as a back squat, even though it's loading on your back. So with that, it was a good transition from a front to a back without such a big gap, if that makes sense for like just transitioning and making small jumps or small progressions through a back squat progression series. So then we cut back squat from our training, and the amount of different exercises that I can do with the safety squat bar is pretty unreal still. So like we'll put a barbell on our back for like split squat or rear foot elevated. We'll do it sometimes too, but it's just another nice option to load. And kind of like what you said, just being able to give kids options of how they load is super important, I think. And if I'd go back, like I got to redo the weight room like 5 years ago. And the first time I only bought like 1 or 2 safety squat bars, and I was only going to do it for injured people, like if they had a wrist injury or an elbow injury or something like that. And then I realized, like, why not use this for everyone? So that's my rationale behind it. We do it for every station, and I really enjoy having that programming option.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I would agree with Preston. We currently only have 5, and I would like to probably have more than that. At the moment, I don't know where I'd keep them, which has kind of held me up on that a little bit. I might have to do some rearranging to find space for them at the moment. But yes, there's a ton of variation that you can do with them, so I won't kind of touch on that again. But what I really like for at least what we do here is, we do a ton of, we're heavy unilateral squatting variations, and the ability to add stability to those movements whenever you get into like a, for more or less a better term, like a peaking phase, you're getting into more of a power focused phase, or you're truly loading more maximally. Being able to go to hand supported variations of unilateral exercises is huge for just adding a little bit of more stability to that exercise, so you can drive intent just a little bit more than you could if you were unsupported. We use them extensively, in that realm. And then something that we haven't done a ton of, but I'm considering going to, we've been pushing like skater squats and some unilateral, like true unilateral squat variations more too. And we've got a few athletes that are like kind of maxing out some of our dumbbells and stuff like that. So that might be an easier way for some of these guys to load some movements like that as well. So.
Yeah, I like all those points. I'm going to play a little, maybe devil's advocate a little bit. And I've had them. I had a couple at Jewel. I have one now and I use it. It's a nice, good option to have, but I don't think it's necessary personally. Absolutely necessary. Like if you have the money to spend and you can get one on every rack, go for it. I think, in my opinion. But if you don't, or if you're on a limited budget, I think there's probably some money elsewhere you could go, like down the VBT route or the speed route or something like that. Because one, from a practical standpoint, like Miles said, Preston's got a really cool system for how he stacks those on a rack, on how he stores them. But if I remember right, it's like very particular. The handles have to go this way and this one's this way. If it's white tape, it's on this one. It's like they're just a mess and they drive me nuts a little bit, honestly. They're a great tool to have, no doubt. They are effective, but I don't know how absolutely necessary they are to have one on every single rack, because honestly, I think 90% of people probably can get along just fine with just a normal barbell. And I think you can do all those things and get them strong with a normal barbell, with dumbbells, being creative with those strategies. You think about all the different exercise variations you can do with just a normal barbell when you add in tempos and different stuff like that. I mean, I don't know if another piece of equipment in there is necessary just to add more variety. I think it is necessary to have a few, though, for, like Preston said, for those injury people. I think it's huge. I think it's great. But I just personally don't program it. Maybe it's because I didn't have them. Maybe if I had one in every rack, I would. But honestly, I just don't think it's necessary to have one in every single rack. But that's my opinion. Maybe I'll get roasted for it. But that's my thoughts.
I would agree. Gage. I don't think they're 100% required, but kind of back to Amanda's question, are they a fad? Are they going to go anywhere? I would say no. I think if you've got them, you will find ways to use them and utilize them well. You don't have to have them to, like I said, do a lot of different variations, but once you do, it just opens up that much more possibility. And I don't think it's something that you'll find you just have sitting in the corner that you never use. I think you will find ways to use it if you go ahead and make the investment to get them.
Okay, that helps a lot. No, I appreciate your counter opinion on that, Gage, because I'm still waiting on it a little bit. Good. Miles, how about you?
Yeah, so my question was, what piece of equipment do you guys have in your weight room that is maybe a little bit underrated, that you find invaluable, right? Not something maybe a lot of people think about, but you are using it and love it and wouldn't want to go anywhere else with it.
Let me pitch in on this one real quick, then I gotta go. So what I have right now is I don't have hurdles, like the little, plyometric hurdles. So our athletes are jumping over like shop towel boxes. So anything you can find that's got some height to it, that's what I'm using. So an underrated tool is using boxes for hurdles.
Love it.
And that's my last comment of the podcast, because I got to bounce. All right, see you guys.
See ya.
All right, see you, Gage.
All right, Amanda, how about you?
Mine is, speaking of fads, is one of those the Basu ball, but it's the old school one that was really small. They called them a Basu Sport, and I think they've kind of been replaced just simply with the foam mat, but I use the heck out of those things, and I can't find them anywhere right now. And they're about 11 years old and they keep popping. But I use them for unilateral stuff, rear elevated split squat. That's what I have them go down to. I love using them for plank variations. We'll use them for shoulder stability stuff with their elbows on it. I use them for, obviously, single leg, even competitions, right? Standing on it for one leg and taking their shoes off, using them. So I do not want to invest in more and get the actual big Basu ball, because those things take up so much room and they get I hate that. I don't know, like case that they're in. I absolutely hate that. So if anybody out there has more Basu sports, I am your biggest buyer, and I will take them.
Yeah, that's always frustrating when you find a piece of equipment like that that is underrated, that not a lot of people are using, and so they stop making it, and then you're trying to float by on what you've got. We've got they're, I don't even know what to call them. They're like a Vertimax that is personal and individual to each person. So they like strap in around your ankles, and then it's a big rubber band that basically comes up over your shoulder. And we haven't used them a ton since I've been here, but I know the coaches before me had like a specific vertical jump program that they utilized with a few teams and added a few inches to kids' verticals. And you can have like 15 of them and have 15 kids doing like these band resisted jumps. And you can't find like the straps to get into their ankles anymore. You can still find the bands to replace, but the minute that the Velcro breaks, like they're just out. And so we've still got a few of them, and I can use them every now and then if I want to, but we just can't find the replacements for them. So they're kind of becoming obsolete. But that was not my underrated tool. My underrated tool was chains. And not even, we've used them a little bit on the barbell for like accommodating resistance, but where I've found them super valuable is loading body weight movements. So pull-ups, push-ups, skater squats, single leg squats, just anything like that. It's a really good way to just add, 10, 20 pounds at a time. Instead of trying to get people in a belt or something to add weights to a pull-up, you can just throw a couple chains over their shoulders and go. And our athletes really get into that too. Just something cool about having the metal chains clanging around your neck as you're doing it. And then we started using them for resisted sprints too. I like the way the chains drag across the ground a lot better than like a toe sled, because whenever you stop running, the chains just pretty much stop, and they don't like bounce and jump on you. It's more of a smooth pull. So those have been awesome. We did that a little bit in the spring, using the chains for the sprints. And I think, honestly, I like them for that just about as much as anything. So we want to get a few more chains so we can really utilize that in some bigger group settings. But then we'll have them available as well. If we want to do accommodating resistance on a sprint or on a bench press, on a squat, whatever. So yeah, chains have been a super versatile tool for us in the last year or two.
Good. There's something too about chains you say with buy-in. Like,
yeah,
just love having them, like, and asking to put them on the bench and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't care. It's extra weight is definitely not hurting anything. But yeah, the buy-in from chains, that's actually my plan too. Is we have a chain and cable company, and I asked my husband, like, where can I find chains? He's like, you have a biggest sponsor in a chain and cable company, and you'll be able to go and get their remnants of getting six feet. How long are your chains?
So we've got like our heavy chains they're like the medium size. They're not the really big ones. They're like 10 pounds per, and they're maybe like 4 feet long, and we kind of double them up, so there's only about 2 foot of length. Whenever we're using them like on a bar. But then we've got, a smaller chain that will actually hook them to the bar, or that we'll use as like our toe chain, I guess, more or less. And we've got like a couple like 5 foot lengths of those. So I'll hook 2 of them together, and we've got 10 feet of towing to hook onto the heavier chains, and they're about 5 pounds a piece. So we've got 10 pounds worth of towing chain, and then, we'll use anywhere from 10 to 40 pounds of additional chain weight, depending on what we're doing for resisted sprints. But yeah, they've been awesome so far. And like you said, the kids absolutely love them. So there's always that.
Just the noise. That's my plan too. Have you used a fire hose at all with them? Have you seen that?
I haven't. Our chains are not super uncomfortable when you put them on. They're a bigger, smoother chain. And we usually have kids like put them across like a sash instead of just directly around their neck where it's putting pressure directly on their spine. And that seems to be a pretty comfortable way for them to add weight. So.
Good. Love it. That gets me excited. Preston, how about you? Anything underrated in there?
So I just had a coach reach out to me yesterday because I think maybe this surfaced on some discussions, but 1.25 pound change weights. I've talked about it, I think, on this show before, so maybe it's just a repeat for some people, but it's a mindset shifter, right? Like when you say that you want to work heavier on something and you can, no matter what, even if it's only by 2.5 pounds total, then I think that helps kids, especially when you're working with high school athletes, for them to be able to go from 135 to 137 and a half and know that they made a jump maybe from week 1 to week 2 or whatever, like that is really, really good to see. If I ever have the space and the money, I'm going to do 2.5 increases in dumbbells also, at least have one set of those, so that we can have some of these athletes that don't see things in dumbbell jumps as fast because it takes another 10 extra pounds to be able to jump to the next thing. So it's something that I have become pretty passionate about because I've seen how it affects our kids and how it is so good to be able to see success no matter how small it is.
Okay,
So,
yeah, I've seen those on your racks. How much usually are they?
How much what?
Like, how much are those? And then where do you get those? You don't see them very often.
I got mine from Rogue, and I have no idea how much they cost, but it wasn't much. Like for me to outfit every rack, it was probably like $150 or less.
Okay.
And so if you want to go, the thing that is very, very cheap, but can change a mentality and can change a mindset for a whole population, I would say 1.25 pound plates are a really, really good way to go.
Love it. Good. Oh, this has been a fun show. Well, we're at the beginning of a year, I guess on our way out. I want to hear this is a young profession, and especially at the D3 and the high school level. I've seen so many changes in the past year. What are your hopes for strength and conditioning this year? As 1 year from now, how has strength and conditioning evolved?
Yeah, my mindset, and this is the talk that I have with almost every person in Iowa anyway, so we'll make it specific to Iowa, is my hope is in the state of Iowa that there is a qualified strength coach in every weight room. That's always going to be my push as a profession of getting qualified individuals within a room, first for safety and then second for performance. And I think the first one's a big one. I just saw an article where another child is 19 years old, passed away. And it's like, it was a conditioning session. And until we start to have educated people in every weight room, in every conditioning session, in every sport performance setting, we're going to continue to have these tragedies that shouldn't exist, that shouldn't happen. So that's always going to be my push until it happens in the state of Iowa anyway.
Love that.
Miles, how about you?
I guess for me, I would love to see our profession become more professional, especially online. I feel like, and maybe I think there's places where it's certainly becoming more professional, but there's still a big element of people not representing themselves well, not representing their institutions well, getting into cat fights or whatever you want to call it on Twitter, arguing about stupid stuff. I think it's good to have productive conversations, but so much of what I see is just people bashing each other, just for the sake of trying to build themselves up. I don't really know. I don't really understand it. But I think if you asked professionals from other fields to look in on strength and conditioning Twitter, it'd be kind of an embarrassment and a mockery of the profession a little bit. People just not asking not asking good questions, not treating each other with respect. And I think there needs to be a little bit more of that. So I'd really like to see that maybe take a little bit of a jump. So.
Yeah, good. I can see it in both those areas. Those are goals that I have for the profession as well. Making it more professional, more accountable, and in getting more qualified people into our weight rooms. And for my vision for this next year, it has to come from education, and it has to come from a different form of education than we're getting right now. The reality is, in order to get a qualified strength coach, we cannot be requiring master's degrees and these certifications. So I would love to see education for coaches be easier to access. So I think that could be bringing in the high school or teacher world, bringing in a strength and conditioning minor, just like a lot of coaches have a coaching minor. I'd love to see in the college world a strength and conditioning minor that would prepare somebody who's going to be a social teacher and also the strength coach to be able to do that. And then, making certifications, reoccurring certifications, way easier to access. Way easier to access mean cheaper, right? And where they're prevalent, but you do not have to have a master's degree in order to even start thinking about having it. So that would be easier access education for this next year. Miles, you said that you have the strength and conditioning component at your college. I love that. I'm hearing of colleges here really looking into that strength and conditioning minor. So I would love to see D3 colleges taking the lead on that, because that's where a lot of our teachers come from, let's be honest. Right? So good. Well, This has been a great episode. Loved hearing your views on stuff. I hope you have a wonderful school year, and we reflect a year from now how much we've grown and how much this podcast has grown and impacted a lot of coaches. So grateful for you all. Have a good week. Remember, hey, leave us a review. Get out there, subscribe. Things are going great with the podcast. We're also on Twitter. We're also on Instagram, trying to put great content out there and Facebook. So make sure to follow us. Have a great week. See ya.